Hi, we're going to show you how to box up a bike in just 4 easy steps tonight, and anyone can do this, so don't be intimidated by it. I'll show you how, and if you're not sure about how this is all going to go, or if you're worried about it, well, come to our bike boxing demo, which will be in July before RAGBRAI, or just bring your bike and box to West High if you really can't get through it yourself, and someone will be glad to help you. First, I wanted to mention getting a box. You can go to any bike store in town and pick up an empty bike box. They give them away free. Before you come, go to the bottom of the box and pull out all the staples. I've already done that in this one, and then tape it. Because once you get your bike out of it in the campground, you're going to need to flatten the box, and you don't want to be taking the staples out then and dropping them in the grass to end up in somebody's tire or foot or something. So take those staples out and just tape it up with some sturdy tape. Okay, 4 easy steps. First one, probably everybody's familiar with kind of how to adjust your seat. So you just use your Allen wrench here and unscrew that. I have a rack on that attaches to my seat post, but it'll just stay right there with it, and so I'm just going to leave those together and take it out. If you have a rack that bolts on your frame, probably you can just leave it right there. It shouldn't need to get removed at all. We're going to leave that back wheel on there, so no problem with that. Next, let's look at your pedals. You're going to need a pedal wrench or an Allen wrench. There's 2 ways to do it. The Allen wrench fits right here. There's a little place where it fits right there between the arm and the pedal. There's also, if you can come around here to the back and see on the back of the pedal arm, there's a spot where you can put in your Allen wrench and loosen it here, but that's not quite as handy. It's a little bit harder to do when you have less leverage, but probably work if you don't have a pedal wrench. So the tricky thing about the pedals is it's not really lefty-loosey, righty-tighty with both pedals. Both of the pedals are going to unscrew toward the back. I'm going to put my foot on there to get a little leverage. And then counterclockwise, I'm going to unscrew that. Now the other pedal I took off already, but it'd be exactly the same. It also goes toward the back. And then of course, when you're going to put them back on later, they're both going to go toward the front. If yours was hard to get off, and you had to really crank on it to get that come loose, and put a little bit of grease on your threads here so it'll be easier to get on and off next time. Now we're going to put our small parts in a plastic bag to kind of keep track of them. There's just a couple of things that we'll keep track of there. All right, that's 2 steps. Seat and pedals. Next are the handlebars. Most handlebars these days have got some kind of a little plaque with places to put your Allen wrench. This one's got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots to unscrew. Some bikes might only have 2, or it might be a little more on top of your handlebar rather than in front of your handlebars like mine is. If you really have an older style bike, you may not have a plaque like this. You may look and discover there aren't really any places to unscrew. You may just see a spot on the top of your headset like this up here. Come up here now and look at this. Don't bother with that if this is all you have is a spot right there on top. Just leave it, leave your handlebars on, and they can just kind of stick out of your box when you get the rest of it boxed, because it's a little trickier to remove the handlebars using that spot back there on the older style bikes. And I'd rather just have you leave your handlebars out, and the truck can accommodate a few of those bikes and boxes that aren't quite in the right place. Now with both your handlebars and your seat, it's a good idea to mark where you want your seat to go and your handlebars to go, so when you put them back on, like here I have made a little mark so I know just where I'm going to turn my handlebars and have them come to get it right back where I started from. And I did the same on my seat before I took that off, because after you've been riding it all season, you really want it to go back on just the way it came off, so it'll feel right. I'm going to take this off, and then I'm just going to lightly let my handlebars dangle, and then sort of lightly screw this back in place so we don't lose the plate or the screws, because of course you're going to need those. And be really careful doing this if you're in the grass in the campground, because it's awful easy to lose these little screws, never to be seen again. And when you're putting this plate back on later, you're really screwing metal against metal, so be very careful to go once around, tighten them all up, and then around again, tighten them up, and do that 2 or 3 times, and so they sort of are evenly tightened all the way around. In fact, it doesn't even hurt to go back another couple days later and make sure they all stayed tight. And I should mention, some of you are going to have bikes that have carbon fiber components. That's a little trickier. You very well might need a special wrench, a torque wrench to do your tightening with. It's easy to over tighten screws on carbon fiber and do some damage. So a lot of you will have carbon fiber seat posts. So find out from your bike shop. If you're not sure if that's what you have, find out from your bike shop and get the right kind of wrench so you won't over tighten later. Mine doesn't, so I'm not worried. I'm just going to use a plain old Allen wrench set. Okay, so I just dangled my handlebars. That's the third step. The fourth step now is just to take off the front wheel, which is super easy. As you may know, first thing you need to do is release a brake. You'll probably have a little lever right there by your brake, which you can just flip right up. It loosens the brakes up a bit so that tire will be able to drop out of there. Then go down to your quick release here and pop that open. And then you'll be able to hold that and unscrew the two sides. You're going to want to take out this little skewer altogether. Be careful when you're unscrewing here too, because there's a little tiny spring on each side of, right underneath this part here, and you don't want to drop that in the grass either. There's one of them. And when you pull the other side out, there's one on the other side. They're going to go out with they're going to go back on their little side in, big side out, and screw this back together, and we're going to put that in the bag with our pedals.
You take that off the back wheel also?
Nope, the back wheel we're not really going to touch at all. There's the front wheel off, and that's it. That's all we're going to take apart on this bike. One thing I should have mentioned at first, I do like to have, to protect your derailleurs here, have your chain on the very inside on the front and back, so the derailleurs are really pushed in close to your frame. They won't get bumped as easily against the side of the box. So I should have mentioned that first. Okay, now we're going to kind of turn this whole headset around so that the fork kind of points to the back, and the handlebars should be able to kind of tuck up next to the frame here. Now, I have a kind of an old beat up bike, and I'm not too worried about my paint job, but you probably have prettier paint. So use some bubble wrap around your long tubes, or some even newspaper or cardboard taped around there will protect the bike frame from getting scratched. Now this is ready to drop in the box just like this. Sometimes it takes a couple of tries to get it to go in perfectly straight. Make sure that front fork kind of turns to the back. You should be able to drop that down there, and the handlebars may need to turn a little more to slip in there. This fits in pretty well. Sometimes this wants to stick up a little too high here, and one strategy, there's different size boxes, so if yours sticks up a little too high, you might try letting the air out of your back tire, and that'll give you an extra inch. If you have a really large frame, be sure and ask the bike shop for a large box. But if you're doing it, you don't have a large box, don't worry about it. Just close it up best you can, and let the crew know that it needs a little extra care, and they'll put it on the top layer of bikes. So next you want to get your wheel in there, and I want to put it in the side where the chain isn't. And the easiest way to kind of fit it in there, you're going to have to watch out for that crank arm. It's kind of sticking down there, so try to get this put in here without tangling up your crank arm into your spokes. You need 3 hands for this. Sorry, onto your brakes, that's case for me. There we go. That fell right down there. Just kind of ease it in there. You may need to move it a little bit forward or backwards, and let that crank arm maybe even come up through into the spokes, but not bending them. I have it down there now. I'll play with this a little bit to get that to set down there. It will fit right down there to the bottom, so it doesn't stick up out of the top. And then there's plenty of room in here. Of course, your seat you're going to put, that usually fits in pretty well toward the back here somewhere. That'll kind of fit in there and settle down enough to a little trickier with the rack on there, but I'll wiggle it around and maybe even dislodge that rack a little if I need to. I'd also be sure you seal up your little bag of parts. I usually just throw my wrench and my Allen wrench and my pedal wrench right in there too, so I'll have them when I'm ready to reassemble. You can even throw your duct tape in there, your marker, anything you think you might need. that can drop down to the bottom of the box. I usually go ahead and put in my helmet and my shoes, my water bottles. Everything can go in there so that when you get to the campground, you can pull it all out and just have everything you need ready to ride. So that's pretty much it. And putting it together is just the opposite. You're gonna put your front wheel back on. Be sure to hook that brake back down and spin the wheel a couple times to make sure the brake's not rubbing. Put the pedals on. This time you're going to screw the pedals toward the front of the bike clockwise to make both pedals tighten up and tighten them a bit with your pedal wrench. Then you put your seat back on and your front wheel back on, and that's just about it. It goes pretty quick and easy. The handlebars, hopefully you've marked them. You can get those right in place and screw that down tight. And remember to work around in a circle around those 4 screws if you have 4. Make sure they're evenly tightened. So that's about it. If you have any trouble, as I said, just come to West High and bring your bike and your box and somebody will help you, and there's always people to help in the campground. So don't stress over it, and I hope you can get it done, and I'll see you in July.